Welcome to Land of Horror. Today, we will continue our journey to explore the most chilling mysteries. Do you have the courage to face spooky stories, terrifying legends, and unexplained supernatural phenomena? Join me as we delve into haunted places, dark secrets, and legendary figures that will send shivers down your spine. Before we begin, make sure to hit the subscribe button so you won't miss any videos, and let's step into the world of Land of Horror together. Get ready, because thrilling moments await you. Are you ready to explore? The winter chill hung in the air as Sarah pushed her shopping cart through the bustling aisles of a local department store. Christmas was only days away, and as a single mother, she felt the pressure to find the perfect gift for her daughter, Emily. She scanned the shelves filled with toys, each one promising joy and excitement for the holiday season. "Mommy, look!" Emily's voice broke through her thoughts. The 7-year-old tugged at Sarah's coat, her wide blue eyes sparkling with excitement. In her hand was a plush unicorn, but Sarah knew that wasn't what her daughter truly wanted. "I know you love that, sweetie, but let's keep looking," Sarah replied gently, her mind already racing. She remembered how Emily had been enchanted by the movie Frozen, singing along with Elsa and Anna at every opportunity. As they rounded a corner, Sarah's heart skipped a beat. There, nestled among a pile of brightly colored boxes, was a beautiful Elsa doll with flowing blonde hair, dressed in a shimmering blue gown. It was everything Emily had dreamed of, and the price was right. "This is it," she declared, a smile spreading across her face. Emily's eyes lit up, and she practically jumped with joy. Sarah felt a surge of happiness. This was going to be a Christmas to remember. On Christmas morning, the house was filled with laughter and the scent of cinnamon. The small living room, decorated with twinkling lights and ornaments, felt warm and inviting. Sarah watched as Emily tore through wrapping paper, her delighted squeals echoing in the air. When the doll was finally revealed, Emily's eyes widened in disbelief. "Mommy, it's Elsa!" she shouted, clutching the doll to her chest. As Emily played with the doll, Sarah felt a sense of satisfaction wash over her. The doll recited lines from the movie and sang, "Let it go," when its button was pressed. Laughter filled the room, drowning out any thoughts of the hardships they had faced as a single-parent household. But that night, as Sarah tucked Emily into bed, a strange unease settled over her. She noticed the doll perched on the shelf, its blue eyes glimmering in the dim light. "Good night, Elsa," Emily whispered, her voice barely above a whisper. Sarah closed the door softly, the sound of Emily's soft breathing bringing her comfort. Days turned into weeks, and the magic of Christmas began to fade. As Emily played with the doll, strange things started happening. At first, it was subtle, a flicker of the lights when the doll was nearby, the sound of whispers echoing in the corners of the room. Sarah shrugged it off as her imagination, a byproduct of the holiday stress. However, one evening, while cooking dinner, Sarah heard a soft melody coming from the living room. She stepped into the room, her heart racing. There was Emily, sitting on the floor with the doll in her lap, its mouth moving in time with the music. "Emily, did you press the button?" Sarah asked, confusion mingling with a flicker of fear. "No, Mommy! It just started singing," Emily replied, her eyes wide with innocent wonder. The melody continued, but it was off-key, almost haunting. Sarah felt a shiver run down her spine. She quickly grabbed the doll and turned it off, convincing herself it was just a malfunction. But deep down, she could not shake the feeling that something was wrong. As the weeks passed, the doll's behavior became increasingly erratic. It began alternating between English and Spanish, reciting lines from the movie in both languages, sometimes mid-sentence. Emily was fascinated, but Sarah's unease grew. One afternoon, while Emily was napping, Sarah decided to investigate the doll. She unscrewed the battery compartment and inspected its wiring, but everything seemed normal. That evening, as Sarah sat on the couch with a cup of tea, she heard laughter coming from Emily's room. Her heart raced. She glanced at the clock. It was past Emily's bedtime. Rushing down the hall, she opened the door to find the doll sitting upright on the edge of the bed, its eyes fixed on her. "Emily, are you playing with the doll?" she called out, her voice shaky. "No, Mommy. I'm asleep." Emily's voice came from under the covers, and Sarah felt a cold chill wash over her. "Get back to sleep, sweetie," she managed, trying to keep her voice steady. As she left the room, she couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The following week, the situation escalated. One morning, Sarah found the doll sitting on the kitchen table, its face turned toward the window, even though she was certain she had left it in Emily's room. Confused, she shook her head, attributing it to forgetfulness. But when Emily returned from school, she screamed in delight upon seeing the doll. "Look, Mommy! Elsa is magical." "Magical?" Sarah echoed, unease creeping into her voice. "What do you mean?" "She told me," Emily said, her eyes wide with excitement. "She talks to me at night." That night, Sarah lay awake, unable to shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. She could hear Emily's soft murmurs from the other room, followed by the doll's melodic voice. The words were indistinguishable, but the tone was unsettling. In a sudden burst of courage, Sarah burst into the room, flipping on the light. "Emily, what are you doing?" Emily sat up, her eyes glazed and unblinking. "Elsa says she wants to play with me forever." Panic gripped Sarah as she realized her daughter was no longer herself. The doll had ensnared Emily in its web. "No, you don't have to listen to it. It's just a toy," she shouted, trying to break the spell. But Emily merely smiled, her expression eerily vacant. Sarah's heart raced as she grabbed the doll and turned it off, but it felt as if the doll was laughing at her, mocking her desperation. After several sleepless nights, Sarah knew she had to act. She couldn't let the doll take her daughter. One evening, after Emily had gone to bed, she resolved to get rid of the doll once and for all. She wrapped it in an old blanket and placed it in a box, securing it tightly. The next day, she took it to the local dump, her heart heavy with doubt. Would this truly free Emily from its grip? As she returned home, she tried to shake off the feeling of unease. But when she walked into the living room, she was met with an unsettling sight. Emily was sitting on the floor, playing with the same doll, her laughter echoing through the house. "Emily!" Sarah cried, her voice cracking. "How did you get it back?" The girl looked up, her eyes twinkling with mischief. "Elsa told me where to find her." The realization struck Sarah like a bolt of lightning. The doll had returned, and it had brought something with it, something dark and twisted. In that moment, she vowed to confront the evil that had infiltrated their lives. She would not rest until her daughter was safe. The weeks that followed the Christmas fiasco felt like a surreal nightmare for Sarah. Each day began with a sense of dread, the shadow of the Elsa doll looming over their household like a dark cloud. Emily's once cheerful demeanor had transformed, her laughter replaced by unsettling silence, punctuated only by her conversations with the doll. Sarah found herself watching her daughter closely, fearful of what the doll had unleashed. Emily often played in her room, the door ajar, and Sarah would hear her talking animatedly, her voice mingling with a sweet, soft sound that made the hairs on the back of Sarah's neck stand on end. "Sweetheart, who are you talking to?" Sarah would ask, trying to maintain a calm facade. "Elsa," Emily would reply innocently, her eyes sparkling with a mix of joy and something darker. "She's my best friend." Despite the outward appearance of normalcy, something was clearly amiss. One evening, as Sarah was preparing dinner, she felt compelled to check on Emily. She quietly walked down the hall and peeked into the room. The sight before her froze her in place. Emily sat cross-legged on the floor, the doll cradled in her arms. But it was not just a playful moment. The room was dark, save for the glow of the street lamp outside, casting eerie shadows across the walls. Emily's face was lit by a faint light emanating from the doll's eyes, giving it an unnatural glint. "Emily?" Sarah called softly, stepping into the room. Emily looked up, her smile wide and unsettling. "Look, Mommy! Elsa is telling me a story." As the days turned into weeks, the eerie occurrences escalated. Sarah discovered a series of odd behaviors exhibited by both the doll and Emily. The doll seemed to shift positions on its own, appearing in different spots around the house despite Sarah's efforts to keep it confined to Emily's room. One afternoon, while cleaning the living room, Sarah found the doll sitting on the dining table, its head turned toward the window, as if it had been watching her. A chill swept through her as she recalled that she had left it in Emily's room. "Emily!" she shouted, panic rising in her chest. "Did you take Elsa out of your room?" "No, Mommy," Emily said, her voice too calm. "She likes to watch you cook." The phrase struck Sarah as unnerving. How could a doll watch her? It was just a toy, she reminded herself, but the weight of the unease pressed heavily on her mind. That evening, Sarah decided to have a heart-to-heart with Emily. "Sweetie, I think it's time we put Elsa away for a while. She's not really a friend, you know." Emily's expression shifted instantly from joy to sorrow. "But she's my best friend. I don't want to lose her." Tears welled in her eyes. Sarah knelt beside her, brushing Emily's hair back. "I understand, but sometimes we need to be careful with things that make us feel uneasy. What if we put her in the attic for just a little while?" Emily hesitated, her gaze flickering to the doll, then back to her mother. "Okay, but only if you promise she won't be gone forever." "I promise," Sarah said, though she felt a pang of guilt for what she was about to do. That night, after Emily had gone to bed, Sarah made her way to the attic, the doll cradled in her arms. The stairs creaked beneath her feet, adding to the tension in the air. The attic was dimly lit, cluttered with old boxes and forgotten memories. She placed the doll inside a sturdy cardboard box and shut the lid, sealing it tight. As she descended the stairs, a strange noise caught her attention. It was faint but distinct, like the sound of laughter echoing through the hallways. Sarah paused, her heart pounding. It was late, and the house should have been silent. "Emily?" she called, softly, dread pooling in her stomach. But there was no response. Instead, the laughter continued, a high-pitched giggle that sent chills down her spine. Determined to find the source, Sarah hurried to Emily's room, but it was empty. The bed was neatly made, and her daughter was nowhere to be found. Panic surged as she rushed back down the hall, the laughter growing louder. Suddenly, the laughter stopped, replaced by a faint humming. It was a tune Sarah recognized. "Let It Go." Her breath caught in her throat as she realized it was coming from the living room. Sarah cautiously approached the living room, her heart racing. As she entered, the television flickered on, casting an eerie glow across the room. The Elsa doll sat in front of the screen, facing it, despite being locked away in the attic just moments before. The room felt suffocating, the air thick with tension. Sarah's gaze darted to the window. The street outside was dark, the only light emanating from the screen. "Turn it off!" she shouted, rushing to the remote. But as she reached for it, the doll turned its head slowly, locking its blue eyes onto hers. Sarah recoiled, fear gripping her. "What do you want?" she whispered, feeling a strange connection, as if the doll could hear her thoughts. But it remained silent, its mouth moving in sync with the song. Heart pounding, Sarah yanked the plug from the wall, plunging the room into darkness. She stumbled back, her mind racing with thoughts. This wasn't just a malfunction. This was deliberate. The next morning, Sarah woke with a sense of urgency. She knew she had to seek help, but from whom? The local support groups she had attended for single parents had been comforting, but they wouldn't understand the terror she faced with the doll. In a moment of desperation, she called a friend from college, Michelle, who had a background in psychology. "I need your help, Michelle. It's about Emily and the doll." Michelle agreed to come over, and as Sarah waited, she felt the weight of dread settle over her once again. When Michelle arrived, she was greeted by a visibly distressed Sarah. "I don't know what to do. It's like Elsa is controlling her," Sarah confessed, leading Michelle to the living room. As they sat together, Sarah recounted the strange events, the laughter, the singing, Emily's behavior. Michelle listened intently, her brow furrowing with concern. "It sounds like there's a strong emotional attachment," Michelle said thoughtfully. "Have you tried talking to Emily about her feelings toward the doll? Sometimes children can internalize things in ways we don't understand." Inspired by Michelle's advice, Sarah sat down with Emily that evening. The girl was sitting quietly in her room, the doll tucked away in a box in the corner. "Emily, I want to talk to you about Elsa," Sarah began gently, gauging her daughter's reaction. "What do you feel when you play with her?" "She's special, Mommy," Emily replied, her eyes filled with earnestness. "She makes me happy. But do you think she could also make you sad or scared?" Sarah pressed, trying to navigate the conversation carefully. Emily frowned, contemplating her mother's words. "Sometimes, when she sings, it feels different. But I like it." That admission struck a chord with Sarah. "What if we take a break from Elsa for a while? Just until we can understand her better?" Emily looked torn, her fingers twisting in her lap. "Okay, but can I keep her close?" "Of course," Sarah replied, her heart aching for her daughter. They decided to place the doll in a box, but this time, Emily could keep it in her room, a compromise that allowed both of them to feel a little more secure. Determined to get to the bottom of the doll's influence, Sarah began her investigation. She researched online, combing through forums and articles about haunted objects and cursed dolls. What she found was chilling. There were countless stories of dolls that seemed to come alive, changing the lives of their owners forever. One evening, while searching through an online community, Sarah stumbled upon a discussion about a local psychic who specialized in hauntings. The members shared stories of her ability to communicate with spirits, providing clarity and insight into troubling situations. With her heart pounding, Sarah decided to reach out. The psychic, Madame Zora, was known for her unconventional methods, but had a reputation for helping families in distress. Sarah felt an odd mix of hope and skepticism as she booked an appointment for the following week. On the day of the appointment, Sarah felt a mix of anticipation and dread. As she entered Madame Zora's modest shop, the scent of incense filled the air, and the dim lighting created an otherworldly atmosphere. Madame Zora was a middle-aged woman with piercing green eyes, and an air of wisdom that instantly put Sarah at ease. After exchanging pleasantries, they sat down at a small table, adorned with crystals and candles. "Tell me about the doll," Madame Zora prompted, her voice calm and soothing. As Sarah recounted her experiences, she felt a weight lift from her shoulders. "I just want to know if it's safe for my daughter. It feels like there's something wrong." Madame Zora nodded thoughtfully. "Objects can hold energy, both good and bad. Sometimes they act as vessels for emotions, fears, or even past traumas. We need to see what's influencing the doll and, in turn, your daughter." She closed her eyes, focusing intently, and Sarah watched in awe as a subtle shift seemed to envelop the room. Moments later, Madame Zora opened her eyes and looked directly at Sarah. "There's a darkness surrounding this doll. she said, her voice low. It is feeding off Emily's emotions. We must confront this darkness to free her. Determined to rid the doll of its negative influence, Sarah and Madame Zora devised a plan for a small exorcism in the comfort of Sarah's home. They gathered items that represented light and positivity, a white candle, salt, and a small bowl of water. On the night of the ritual, Sarah felt a mix of apprehension and hope. Emily, aware that something important was about to happen, watched quietly from the hallway, clutching the box with the doll. As they began, Madame Zora lit the candle and spoke words of purification, guiding Sarah through each step. You must focus on your love for Emily and your desire to protect her, she instructed. Sarah's heart raced as she concentrated, pouring every ounce of her love and determination into the ritual. As the flame flickered, the atmosphere shifted, and Sarah felt a surge of energy in the room. Suddenly, the doll began to shake, rattling inside the box as if it were alive. Sarah gasped, her eyes widening in shock. Do not be afraid. Madame Zora shouted over the growing noise. Keep going. Your love is stronger than this darkness. Just as the intensity peaked, the shaking stopped. An unsettling silence enveloped the room, and Sarah felt a chill wash over her. Madame Zora took a deep breath, her eyes narrowing. It's angry, she warned, but it's also vulnerable. You must confront it, Sarah. Speak your truth. With trembling hands, Sarah stepped closer to the box. You will not hurt my daughter anymore. You are just a doll, and I am her mother. I will protect her. The air crackled with tension, and in that moment, something shifted. The doll's head tilted slightly, as if acknowledging Sarah's declaration. Madame Zora continued the incantation, urging Sarah to push forward. Let go of the fear. Release it. As the final words were spoken, a loud crack echoed through the room, and the candle flickered violently before extinguishing completely. Darkness engulfed them, but Sarah felt an overwhelming sense of relief wash over her. Moments later, the lights flickered back on, illuminating the room. The box lay still, the doll seemingly dormant within. Madame Zora smiled knowingly. You have faced the darkness, and it is now weakened. But it will take time for the residual energy to dissipate. Emily approached cautiously, her eyes wide. What happened, Mommy? It's okay, sweetie. Sarah reassured her, pulling her daughter close. We just had to make sure Elsa wasn't hurting you anymore. As they embraced, a sense of calm settled over the house. The doll remained in the box, but it felt less threatening now, almost benign. In the days that followed, Emily returned to her vibrant self. The eerie occurrences diminished, and the house slowly regained its warmth. Sarah felt a renewed sense of hope, grateful for the clarity and strength she had discovered within herself. She decided to keep the doll locked away for now, a reminder of the struggles they had overcome. But she also learned the importance of addressing fears head-on, ensuring Emily felt safe and loved. As they sat together in the living room one evening, Sarah reflected on the past weeks. You know, Emily, it's okay to have things that make us scared. What's important is that we talk about it. Emily nodded, her eyes sparkling with understanding. And we can be brave together, Mommy. Together, they embraced the new beginning, knowing they had faced darkness and emerged stronger. Though the past was still fresh in their minds, Sarah felt a newfound sense of resilience, a mother willing to fight for her child no matter the cost. The tranquility of the house was a welcome change for Sarah and Emily. After the exorcism, they felt a renewed sense of safety, but the past lingered like a shadow, haunting their thoughts. Sarah couldn't shake off the unsettling feeling that the doll was still somehow connected to them. One evening, while cleaning the attic, Sarah stumbled upon an old box of family photographs. Dust danced in the air as she opened it, revealing snapshots of her family's history. As she flipped through the pictures, one photograph caught her eye. a faded image of her grandmother holding a porcelain doll eerily similar to the one Emily had. "Mommy, what's that?" Emily asked, peering over Sarah's shoulder. "It's just a picture of Grandma," Sarah replied, trying to keep her voice steady. But the resemblance between the doll in the photo and the Elsa doll was striking. "Can I see it?" Emily reached for the picture, her eyes lighting up with curiosity. As they examined the photograph, Sarah felt a cold shiver run down her spine. She didn't remember her grandmother ever mentioning owning a doll like that. What if there was more to the story? That night, unable to sleep, Sarah found herself lost in thought. She decided to dig deeper into her family's past, hoping to uncover any connection to the doll. She spent hours researching online, scrolling through family trees and genealogy websites. The next day, she called her mother, eager to learn more about her grandmother. "Mom, do you remember anything about Grandma's old dolls? I found a picture of her with one that looks just like Emily's." "Oh, that old thing," her mother chuckled, though Sarah sensed a hint of discomfort in her voice. "She had a whole collection. I always thought they were just dusty relics, but she would talk about them as if they were alive." "What do you mean?" Sarah pressed, intrigued. "She claimed they held memories. Some were passed down through generations, and she believed they could connect with the past," her mother replied, her tone shifting. "But I always thought it was just her imagination." Sarah felt a chill as she considered the possibility that the Elsa doll was more than just a toy. It could be a vessel of memories and emotions, including those that were dark and unresolved. Determined to get to the bottom of this, Sarah decided to visit her mother, hoping to see the collection of dolls her grandmother had left behind. As she drove through the familiar streets of her childhood, anxiety churned in her stomach. When she arrived, her mother welcomed her with a warm hug but noticed the worry etched on Sarah's face. "What's bothering you?" she asked, concern evident. "I found something about Grandma's dolls, and I need to know more," Sarah confessed. Together, they ventured into the attic, where her mother had stored the remnants of her grandmother's collection. Dust hung thick in the air as they opened the trunk. Inside were a variety of dolls, some pristine, others worn with age. As Sarah sifted through them, she felt an uncanny sensation. One particular doll caught her eye, a porcelain figure dressed in a faded blue dress, with hauntingly familiar blue eyes. "Mom, look at this one," Sarah exclaimed, holding it up. Her mother's face paled. "That was Grandma's favorite. She always said it was special." "What do you mean?" Sarah asked, intrigued and unsettled. "She believed it had a soul," her mother replied, her voice trembling, "and that it could influence the people around it." That night, back at home, Sarah placed the doll on a shelf in the living room, thinking it might provide some answers. Emily was excited to see the new doll, but Sarah felt a sense of dread wash over her. As days passed, strange occurrences began again. Emily would talk to the new doll, calling it by the name her grandmother had given it, Lily. Sarah tried to dismiss her fears, believing they were just remnants of the past haunting her mind. However, the atmosphere in the house began to shift. Whispers echoed through the hallways at night, and Emily started waking up in the middle of the night, claiming she heard Lily calling to her. "Mommy, Lily says she wants to play," Emily would say, her face illuminated by the moonlight, eyes wide with excitement. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. "No more playing with Lily, sweetheart. It's late, and you need to sleep," she would insist, tucking Emily back under the covers. But Emily's attachment to the doll grew stronger. One night, Sarah woke to the sound of Emily giggling in her room. Heart racing, she tiptoed down the hall, pushing open the door to find Emily sitting on the floor, holding Lily. "Sweetie, what are you doing up?" Sarah asked, her voice shaky. "Lily is telling me stories, Mommy," Emily giggled, her eyes sparkling with delight. The following morning, Sarah decided to research more about her grandmother and the dolls. She visited the local library, combing through old newspaper clippings and historical records. She found a disturbing article about a series of tragic events that had befallen families who owned dolls from her grandmother's collection. The tale spoke of loss, heartache, and madness. The name, Lily, appeared repeatedly, associated with strange occurrences. With each story, Sarah's heart sank further. It became clear that the dolls, especially Lily, had a dark history. Returning home, Sarah confronted her mother about the articles. Did Grandma ever mention anything about bad luck or tragedy associated with these dolls? She asked, her voice tight with anxiety. Not directly, her mother replied, her face pale. But she did have a strange obsession with keeping them safe. Maybe there's something to what you're saying. As the days turned into weeks, the haunting intensified. Sarah felt as if she were losing control, and Emily's connection to Lily grew increasingly disturbing. The whispers became clearer, filling the house with an unsettling energy. One night, Sarah found herself unable to sleep. The air felt thick, charged with a palpable tension. She made her way to the living room, hoping to calm her racing heart. As she entered, she noticed Lily sitting on the couch, facing the window. "Emily?" Sarah called out, but the silence that followed was deafening. Suddenly, a cold breeze swept through the room, and the lights flickered. The whispers grew louder, echoing her name. "Sarah! Sarah!" Terror surged through her as she realized she was not alone. The room felt alive with a presence, one that seemed intent on making itself known. "Leave us alone!" Sarah shouted, her voice breaking. "We don't want you here!" But the whispers only grew louder, mocking her fears. In a moment of clarity, Sarah grabbed Lily and hurled her across the room. The doll landed with a soft thud, its porcelain face staring blankly at her. In the aftermath of that night, Sarah knew something had to change. She sought the guidance of Madame Zora once more, desperate for answers. As she arrived at the psychic shop, Sarah felt a mixture of hope and fear. "I don't know how to make it stop," she admitted, her voice trembling. Madame Zora listened intently. "You must confront the source of the energy," she said softly. "The dolls are vessels. You need to find out what they are holding on to and release it." Sarah returned home determined to face the truth. She gathered Emily, and together they sat in the living room, the atmosphere thick with tension. "Emily, we need to talk about Lily," Sarah said gently, taking her daughter's hands. "What do you feel when you're with her?" "She makes me happy," Emily replied, her eyes shining. "But she also feels sad sometimes." "Sad?" Sarah asked, heart racing. "Why do you think that is?" "She says she lost someone she loved," Emily whispered, her voice barely audible. Those words struck Sarah like a bolt of lightning. "Who did she lose?" she pressed, desperate for answers. "A little girl," Emily replied, her expression serious. "She says the girl was lonely and that she wants a friend." Tears filled Sarah's eyes as she realized the weight of the burden the doll carried. "Emily, we need to help her find peace," Sarah said, her heart aching. "But we have to do it together." With Emily's guidance, they began a ritual to honor Lily's memory. They created a small altar in the living room, placing flowers and photographs of little girls from their family's past. As they lit candles, the atmosphere shifted, becoming heavy with emotion. "Lily, we are here for you," Sarah spoke softly. "We want to help you find your friend. You don't have to be sad anymore." As they finished, a calmness enveloped the room. For the first time in weeks, Sarah felt a sense of relief, as if the air had cleared. But just as they began to relax, the whispers returned, more aggressive than ever. Sarah could feel the presence building, determined to be heard. "Leave us alone," she shouted, her voice steady with newfound determination. "We won't let you control us anymore." Suddenly, the lights flickered violently, and Lily flew off the shelf, crashing against the wall. Sarah gasped, but she stood her ground, facing the doll. "You don't belong here. You're not welcome in our lives." The air crackled with energy as the whispers escalated, surrounding them. But Sarah and Emily stood united, their hearts beating as one. "Lily, we want to help you," Emily shouted, her innocent voice cutting through the chaos. "Please, let us help you find peace." In that moment, everything changed. The whispers ceased, and an overwhelming silence filled the room. The energy shifted, and Sarah felt a wave of warmth wash over her. Lily's eyes seemed to soften, and for the first time, Sarah felt a sense of understanding. "You're not alone," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "You're loved, and you can be at peace." The doll slowly settled back onto the shelf, its presence no longer threatening. The tension that had plagued the house faded, replaced by an air of tranquility. In the days that followed, the haunting ceased entirely. Sarah and Emily found comfort in their new bond with Lily, who now felt like a guardian rather than a threat. As weeks turned into months, the family began to heal. They learned to embrace their fears and confront the past together. Emily often played with Lily, her laughter filling the house once more. Sarah felt a renewed sense of hope, realizing that the love they had for each other was stronger than any darkness. She had faced her fears head-on and emerged not just as a mother, but as a protector. One evening, while tucking Emily into bed, Sarah reflected on their journey. "You know, sweetie," she said softly, "sometimes things can be scary, but facing them together makes us stronger." Emily nodded, snuggling deeper under her covers. "And Lily will always be with us, right? Always," Sarah reassured her, kissing her forehead. As they settled into their new normal, Sarah decided to preserve the story of the dolls and their family history. She documented everything, ensuring that the memories of those who came before them would live on, free from the shadows of fear. In the attic, she found a new purpose. The dolls would no longer be forgotten relics. They would be a testament to resilience and love. As they moved forward, Sarah felt a sense of closure wash over her. They had faced the darkness and emerged stronger, ready to create a future filled with light and laughter. And in their home, the echoes of the past became a foundation for a brighter tomorrow. As summer blossomed, Sarah felt a renewed sense of hope enveloping her home. The chaos that once gripped her family seemed to dissipate, leaving behind an atmosphere of warmth and love. Emily played with Lily in the backyard, her laughter ringing out like a melody. Yet, deep within Sarah's mind, an unsettling thought lingered. Could the peace they found truly last? One afternoon, while Emily was busy crafting a flower crown, Sarah decided to clean the attic again, hoping to uncover more about her family history. She opened boxes filled with memories and stumbled upon an old journal belonging to her grandmother. The leather cover was worn, but the pages inside were surprisingly intact. As she flipped through the entries, Sarah found herself captivated by her grandmother's reflections on motherhood, love, and the significance of the dolls. But as she read on, her heart sank. The later entries grew darker, filled with mentions of loss and grief surrounding the dolls. "Lily," Sarah whispered, the name weighing heavily on her heart. Was her grandmother's love for the doll the catalyst for the tragedies that followed? That night, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling of dread. She lay in bed, the journal clutched tightly in her hands, the words haunting her thoughts. As the clock ticked into the early hours, she made a decision. She had to uncover the truth about Lily and the family's dark past. The following morning, she called her mother again. "Mom, I found Grandma's journal, and it raises some serious concerns about the dolls," Sarah said, her voice tense. "What do you mean?" her mother replied. a hint of worry in her tone. Grandma wrote about a little girl who played with Lily, a girl who vanished under mysterious circumstances, Sarah explained, her heart racing. I need to know what happened. Her mother's silence spoke volumes. I remember whispers about it, but Grandma never spoke openly about the girl. She was always very secretive. Feeling the weight of those words, Sarah decided to investigate further. She reached out to family members who might have known more, uncovering fragments of a story that connected them to a tragedy that had been buried for far too long. Sarah's investigation led her to her great-aunt, a woman now in her 80s, who lived in a nearby town. When Sarah visited, the old woman welcomed her with a weary smile, but her eyes held a deep-seated sadness. I hear you've been digging into our family's past, her great-aunt said cautiously as they sat down for tea. I found Grandma's journal. It mentions a little girl who played with Lily. Sarah pressed, eager for answers. The old woman's expression shifted, and she sighed heavily. Her name was Mary. She was a sweet girl, full of life. But she vanished one stormy night, and the family was never the same. Do you know what happened? Sarah leaned forward, her pulse quickening. I don't have all the details, but some said she had a special bond with that doll. It's as if it drew her in, her great-aunt replied, her voice trembling. After she disappeared, your grandmother became obsessed with keeping the dolls safe, fearing they would bring more sorrow. The conversation left Sarah shaken. The connection between Lily and Mary was more profound than she had imagined. She returned home, her heart heavy with the knowledge that her family's past was riddled with grief. That night, as Emily slept peacefully, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. She heard whispers echoing through the hallways again, this time more insistent, wrapping around her like a fog. Help me! A voice seemed to call, faint yet clear. Who's there? Sarah called out, fear gripping her heart. The whispers ceased, replaced by an eerie silence. The following day, Emily was playing with Lily in the living room when Sarah noticed her daughter talking to the doll, her voice a mix of excitement and confusion. Mommy, Lily says she wants to show me something, Emily said, her eyes wide with wonder. What does she want to show you? Sarah asked, her voice steady but anxious. She says there's a secret in the attic, Emily replied, a mischievous grin spreading across her face. Against her better judgment, Sarah decided to follow Emily into the attic. Together, they climbed the creaky stairs, the air growing colder with each step. The dim light filtered through the small window, casting long shadows across the room. Lily wants to help us find Mary, Emily said, her innocent tone both comforting and chilling. Sarah's heart raced as she scanned the attic, her grandmother's journal still fresh in her mind. Okay, let's see what we can find, she said, trying to sound brave for Emily's sake. As they rummaged through old boxes, Emily suddenly pointed to a small, ornate box hidden behind some furniture. This one. Lily says it's important. Cautiously, Sarah opened the box, revealing an array of old trinkets, a faded locket, a diary, and a delicate bracelet. Among the items lay a crumpled photograph of Mary, smiling brightly next to Lily. This is her, Emily exclaimed, bouncing on her feet. Sarah felt a wave of emotions wash over her. She had never seen a picture of Mary before. The girl's innocent smile seemed to shine through the years, but an unsettling feeling lingered in Sarah's gut. What had truly happened to her? Determined to find closure, Sarah began piecing together the timeline surrounding Mary's disappearance. She reached out to local historians and searched archives, uncovering a trail of sorrow that intertwined with her family's legacy. Through her research, Sarah learned that Mary had gone missing during a severe storm, the same storm that had prompted her grandmother to take shelter with the dolls. The community had searched tirelessly for the girl, but it was as if she had vanished into thin air. In a final attempt to find answers, Sarah organized a small gathering at the local library, inviting family and friends to share stories and memories of Mary. The room was filled with emotions as stories poured forth, some heartwarming, others heartbreaking. One elderly neighbor recalled seeing Mary playing outside on the day she disappeared, her laughter echoing through the streets. "She was a light in our lives, and her absence still casts a shadow," the woman said, tears glistening in her eyes. After the gathering, Sarah felt an overwhelming need to confront the pain that had gripped her family for so long. She returned home, her heart heavy but resolute. "Emily, I think it's time we help Lily find peace," Sarah said, kneeling beside her daughter. "We need to honor Mary and all the love she brought into this world." That evening, they set up a small memorial in the backyard, laying flowers and candles in Mary's memory. As they lit the candles, Sarah felt an inexplicable connection to her great-aunt's stories. It was time to break the cycle of grief. "Lily, we want you to be at peace," Sarah said softly. "We're here for you, and we want to remember Mary with love." Suddenly, the wind picked up, swirling around them, carrying the sweet scent of flowers. Emily giggled, her innocence brightening the somber mood. "Do you think Lily is happy now?" Emily asked, her eyes sparkling with wonder. "I hope so, sweetheart. I hope she feels loved," Sarah replied, feeling a sense of calm wash over her. That night, Sarah was awoken by the sound of Emily whispering in her sleep. "Lily, please don't be sad," she mumbled, her brow furrowed. Worried, Sarah rushed to her daughter's room. She found Emily sitting upright in bed, clutching Lily tightly. "Mommy, Lily says she wants to tell us something." "What is it, darling?" Sarah asked, her heart racing. Emily closed her eyes, as if listening intently. "She says she remembers the storm and the dark place," she murmured, her voice distant. "She says she was scared." Fear gripped Sarah as she struggled to keep her voice steady. "Emily, can you ask her where Mary is?" After a moment of silence, Emily's eyes fluttered open. "Lily says she needs us to find her in the old tree by the creek." The word struck Sarah like a bolt of lightning. The old oak tree near the creek had always been a gathering place for her family, but its significance was only now becoming clear. The following morning, Sarah took Emily to the old oak tree. The sun shone brightly, casting a golden hue over the landscape, but Sarah's heart was heavy with anticipation and dread. As they approached the tree, Emily reached for Lily, holding her tightly. "We're here to help you, Lily," she said, her voice unwavering. Sarah scanned the area, her mind racing with questions. "What are we supposed to find, Lily?" she whispered, hoping for a sign. Suddenly, Emily pointed to a patch of disturbed earth at the base of the tree. "Lily says we need to dig here." With trembling hands, Sarah began to dig, her heart pounding with each scoop of soil. Emily joined in, her small hands eager to help. As they unearthed dirt and roots, a small, withered box surfaced, half buried. "Mommy, look!" Emily exclaimed, her eyes wide with excitement. Taking a deep breath, Sarah carefully opened the box. Inside lay a collection of letters, all addressed to Mary, and a few small toys that had belonged to her. But one item caught her eye, a delicate hairpin, glinting in the sunlight. As Sarah examined the letters, her heart sank further. They were filled with love and longing, written by Mary's friends and family who had desperately searched for her. Each letter was a reminder of the love that surrounded Mary, even after her disappearance. With each letter read, the weight of the past became more tangible. Sarah realized that Mary had not just vanished. She had been deeply loved and missed. "Mommy, why did Lily keep these?" Emily asked, her voice small. "I think Lily wanted us to remember Mary, to keep her spirit alive." Sarah replied, her voice thick with emotion. After digging deeper, they unearthed a small, worn diary that belonged to Mary. As Sarah opened it, she found entries detailing her adventures, her dreams, and her fears. The last entry was particularly poignant, detailing her feelings of loneliness during the storm and her desperate wish for someone to understand her. Tears streamed down Sarah's face as she read the final words. "I just want to be found. I hope someone hears me." In that moment, Sarah understood the truth. Mary had been lost not just physically, but emotionally. The connection between the doll and the girl was rooted in a longing for love and acceptance. Returning home, Sarah shared the letters and diary with Emily, allowing her to see the heartache and hope that intertwined their family's story. They spent the evening reading through the entries, discovering the vibrant life Mary had led. "Mommy, she was just like me," Emily said, her eyes sparkling with understanding. "She loved to play and have adventures." "Yes, sweetie, and we can honor her by remembering her," Sarah replied, feeling a sense of warmth enveloping them. Over the next few days, Sarah and Emily set out to create a memorial for Mary, not only as a tribute but as a way to heal the wounds of the past. They gathered flowers from the garden and decorated the backyard, transforming it into a beautiful sanctuary. As they finished the memorial, Sarah felt a wave of peace wash over her. They lit candles and shared stories, allowing Mary's spirit to be a part of their lives once again. "Lily will always be with us, right?" Emily asked, her eyes filled with hope. "Always," Sarah replied, smiling through her tears. With the doll and the memory of Mary at the forefront of their hearts, Sarah felt a new sense of purpose. They would not let fear dictate their lives any longer. Instead, they would embrace love, understanding, and the bonds that connected them. In the days that followed, the house filled with laughter and light once more. The echoes of the past had transformed into a legacy of resilience, reminding them that even in the darkest times, love prevails. As autumn arrived, the trees around Sarah's home blazed with colors of orange and gold. The air grew crisp, carrying a sense of change that mirrored the transformations in Sarah and Emily's lives. They had spent the past few months honoring Mary's memory and rebuilding their lives, but a nagging feeling lingered within Sarah. One evening, as they sat together on the porch, Emily asked, "Mommy, will Lily always be happy now?" Sarah paused, searching for the right words. "I think so, honey. We've honored her and Mary. But sometimes, memories can resurface unexpectedly." Emily nodded, but Sarah could see the curiosity in her eyes. "Do you think we'll ever really know what happened to Mary?" The question hung in the air, stirring up old fears. "I think it's time we find out once and for all," Sarah replied, determination sparking within her. Driven by a sense of urgency, Sarah set out to gather the remaining pieces of Mary's story. She reached out to her great-aunt again, hoping to uncover more details about the day Mary disappeared. "I'll come over tomorrow, dear," her great-aunt promised, her voice shaky. "But be careful. Some memories are best left buried." The next day, as dark clouds gathered in the sky, Sarah felt a foreboding sense of unease. When her great-aunt arrived, Sarah noticed the worry etched on her face. "I've been thinking about the storm the night Mary vanished," her great-aunt began, her hands trembling. "It was no ordinary storm. There was talk in the town, talk of shadows moving in the wind." "Shadows?" Sarah questioned, her heart racing. "Yes, some believe they saw a figure near the creek," her great-aunt whispered. "But the town was too focused on finding Mary to pay attention to the strange happenings." As the storm raged outside, the wind howled like a restless spirit, echoing the turmoil within Sarah. She and her great-aunt shared stories and pieced together the events leading up to Mary's disappearance. "That doll," her great-aunt said suddenly. "It was a gift from your grandmother to Mary." Perhaps it held a connection to the events of that night. But how? Sarah pressed, the weight of uncertainty pressing down on her. Some say dolls can capture emotions, memories, even spirits, her great-aunt murmured. It's a delicate balance. The room grew colder as the storm intensified, and Sarah felt a shiver run down her spine. We have to go to the creek, she said firmly, feeling the urgency swell within her. It's where it all began. As they approached the creek, the wind whipped through the trees, sending chills down Sarah's spine. Emily clutched Lily tightly, her innocent eyes wide with apprehension. Mommy, are we really doing this? Emily asked, her voice barely audible over the storm. Yes, sweetheart. We need to face this, Sarah replied, trying to instill courage in her daughter. The water surged with fury as they reached the bank. What if we find something? Emily asked, a mixture of fear and curiosity in her eyes. We will face it together, Sarah assured her, trying to sound brave. They searched the area where Mary was last seen, the memories of her laughter echoing in Sarah's mind. The storm seemed to respond to their presence, growing fiercer as they unearthed more fragments of the past. As they dug into the soft earth, they unearthed remnants of a broken bracelet, a toy Mary had cherished, and finally, a small, weathered box. Heart racing, Sarah opened it, revealing letters written by Mary's friends, filled with messages of love and longing. Suddenly, Emily gasped, pointing towards the water. Look, Mommy! There's something moving! Sarah turned, her heart pounding as she saw a figure emerging from the creek, cloaked in shadow. Stay back, she yelled, instinctively placing herself in front of Emily. The figure stepped closer, revealing an outline of a girl, her clothes tattered, hair matted with mud. Help me, the girl whispered, her voice barely rising above the storm. Mary? Sarah breathed, feeling a rush of recognition. The girl's eyes flickered with a haunting sadness. You found me, she said, her voice echoing like a distant memory. The storm intensified, but Sarah felt an inexplicable connection to the girl. Mary, we're here to help you. What happened to you? Mary's gaze turned desperate. I was playing by the creek when the storm came. I tried to run, but the water, it pulled me under. I was so scared. Tears streamed down Sarah's face as she listened, her heart aching for the lost child. You didn't deserve this, Mary. We've been searching for you. I know, Mary whispered, her voice trembling. But I couldn't let go of Lily. She was my only friend. Emily stepped forward, holding Lily tightly. You can have her back, Mary. She can help you feel better. Mary's expression softened. Please, I want to go home. In that moment, Sarah understood. The connection between the doll and Mary ran deeper than she had realized. The doll represented a bond of love and loss, a symbol of the family's grief. Let's bring you home, Mary, Sarah said softly, kneeling beside her. But you must promise to find peace. I promise, Mary replied, her voice barely a whisper. As they held hands, the wind howled, and the storm swirled around them, creating a vortex of emotions. The air crackled with energy, and Sarah felt the weight of generations lift as they began to heal. Lily is with you now, Mary. You'll always be together, Sarah said, her voice steady. Suddenly, the storm began to calm. The rain softened, and the wind ceased its fury. Mary's figure started to fade, a serene smile gracing her face. Thank you, she whispered, before vanishing into the air, leaving only a gentle breeze in her wake. Sarah fell to her knees, overwhelmed by the release of emotions. Emily wrapped her arms around her mother, tears streaming down her cheeks. Is she gone? She asked, her voice trembling. Yes, sweetheart. She's finally at peace, Sarah replied, her heart aching but filled with hope. In the silence that followed, they sat together, watching the creek flow gently once more, feeling the warmth of healing envelop them. They had confronted the shadows of the past and emerged stronger, united by love and understanding. Returning home, Sarah felt an overwhelming sense of relief. The house was filled with warmth and laughter as they began to rebuild their lives. The weight of the past had lifted, leaving room for new memories to flourish. One day, as they sat together on the porch, Emily asked, "Can we tell stories about Mary?" "Of course," Sarah smiled, her heart swelling with love. "She will always be a part of our family." As they shared stories, Sarah realized that healing was an ongoing journey. They would continue to honor Mary's memory while embracing the love that surrounded them. In the weeks that followed, Sarah and Emily created a small memorial in their backyard, filled with flowers and mementos that celebrated Mary's life. They invited friends and family to join them, creating a sense of community that helped heal the wounds of the past. As the years went by, the memory of Mary became a source of strength for them. They shared her story with others, ensuring that she would never be forgotten. Sarah often reflected on that stormy night by the creek, the moment they confronted their fears and broke the cycle of grief. It became a reminder that love prevails, even in the darkest times. Years later, as Emily prepared to leave for college, Sarah felt a mix of pride and nostalgia. They had weathered storms together, finding strength in each other and the memories they cherished. "Mom, do you think Lily will always be with us?" Emily asked, her voice soft. "Yes, my love. She'll always be a part of our story," Sarah replied, her heart swelling with love. As they embraced, Sarah felt a sense of fulfillment wash over her. They had faced the past, honored their loved ones, and emerged stronger. With a renewed sense of purpose, Sarah watched as Emily stepped into her future, confident and resilient. They had built a legacy of love that would carry them through the trials ahead. In the quiet moments, when memories of the past surfaced, Sarah would share stories of Mary, teaching Emily the importance of understanding and embracing their family's history. Together, they created a tapestry of love that would endure through generations, ensuring that the bond they shared would never be broken.